Hi, welcome to my super high-tech studio. I'm actually just using natural light, so let's hope we don't get any cloud coverage while I'm doing this. I just want to talk about something that I feel is really important, not only in the world of mental health, but in the world of relationships, friendships, relationships at work with your coworkers, your bosses, stuff like that. Um, and it's communication. So we hear from the moment that we even remotely ask for relationship advice that communication is key. I think the main thing that we actually have a problem with here is not understanding where our communication is going wrong. I think we're all trying to communicate, and somehow we're experiencing either roadblocks or lack of self awareness, or in this case, I'm going to talk about expecting the person that you are communicating with to somehow inherently know things about you that you have not previously stated. So, I mean, this could be a number of things. This could be trauma from your childhood. This could be relationship with your parents. This could be health problems. This could be pet peeves. This could be fears. It really could be anything. And somehow we just magically expect people to know things about us and we don't state them. And then we get upset when people violate that certain thing. And then a lot of times we either choose to internalize that and it festers and it grows, and then we get even more upset about it, or we end up handling it in a way that's a little bit too brash, and we end up actually creating discourse out of something that could have easily been solved with a really small snippet of communication. I don't want to give a lot of personal anecdotes, but I could spare you one. I really don't like the word slut. I don't like being called a slut. I don't like using that word. I don't like referring to other people as that word. I don't like hearing other people refer to other people as a word. It rubs me the wrong way due to something that's happened in my past. And when people use it jokingly towards me most of the time, I'm like, haha, it's no big deal, whatever. But what I've learned is that with excessive use of that word, it kind of just, it feels weird. It feels uncomfortable for me, and it starts like getting inside my head. So at first I was thinking to myself like, oh, people should just know not to call you a slut. I felt that it was an inherent point that we knew as adults that using the word slut isn't really appropriate in any manner. But there's a difference between using a word in the sense of it being inappropriate as a joke and it being used as an insult. And I found that even when used in the context of a joke, I was still really rubbed the wrong way. And I don't have a terrible sense of humor. I can take a joke, and I have a fairly risque sense of humor. So this was just something really personal to me. And I learned that there was no way for another person to really understand the gravity that using that word excessively had in my life, especially if they were completely joking. So I learned that even in a joking context, I needed to be very clear that, hey, I knew you were joking and I'm not mad at all. But I have a really difficult time hearing that word, and it would mean a lot to me if you wouldn't use that in the future. And how long did that take? 15 seconds for me to say, hey, I know that you were joking. I'm not upset with you at all. I just want to let you know this is a personal detail about myself, and I would be really appreciative if we could omit that in the future. 15 seconds for me to avoid a potential problem in the future, to prevent me internalizing something and then getting mad, for me to avoid overthinking, for me to avoid spiking my anxiety with this. Okay, so I think all of you might be able to identify something in your life, whether it's small like a word or it's big like a huge fear, and something that really does terrify you in life, or something that makes you incredibly uncomfortable, or something you really don't like to talk about. And I think that a big thing that we just suddenly, somehow, like I said, I expected everybody to understand that you don't call someone a slut. And then I realized that a lot of people do understand that, but we still use it in a joking manner, and that still bothered me. And I needed to make that clear because it was creating unnecessary discourse that didn't need to be there, both internally and externally. This can turn into a blame game, and it can turn into, oh, you did this, you said this, you did that, and it can go, like tit for tat, especially in relationships, friendships, family, co-workers, of course, anybody that you're close with, but particularly relationships. Not only have I experienced this, I've seen it. Obviously, I work in the mental health field, so I hear about it a lot. And it all boils down to, we cannot expect people to miraculously understand things about us. There are very few things that we really can expect from people around us, and most of that is don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. You are not responsible for teaching someone don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal unless you are their parent. And in the context of a relationship or a friendship, or someone who's come into your life who was not biologically related to you, who didn't experience things with you throughout your entire lifetime, there are some things that you have to teach each other. And something like saying, hey, the word slut has a really dark history with me, and I would really appreciate it if we just didn't use that. That's something that you're teaching someone that they didn't know. Their parents might not have told them, hey, don't call people a slut, because, we all grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and we weren't really as aware as we are now that slut shaming isn't okay. Anyway, back on topic. Part of the problem, I think, when it comes to communication is we think that it has to be some large, grandiose gesture that takes an extensive amount of time and effort, when it took me 15 seconds to make something clear and say it in a kind way, in a clear way. And when we get into teaching our significant others or our friends or our coworkers things about us, sometimes it can get a little bit emotionally draining. Oops. And I think the thing that is most important here is you have to look at yourself if you expect people to know things about you, and you have to learn how to communicate those things effectively and early. If you wait too long and the event occurs and you internalize that and then you take it out on someone, it's probably going to cause a lot more harm on both ends than if you were to say the first time something happened, hey, this is really hurtful for me, and it would mean so much to me if we would avoid this in the future. And then not only are you avoiding something, you're also building a stronger relationship with that person. Like I said, whether this is friend, relationship, family, whatever. And this can really improve your quality of life, because then you don't have to deal with this in the future. And if you do have to deal with it in the future and you have been kind in your communication, you have to understand that it's not your fault. If you have done what you need to do to effectively communicate whatever you feel this person should understand about you, and they are not respecting that, further communication might be necessary, or a reminder like, hey, remember we talked about that? It's still really important to me. And if they're not willing to honor that, I think that says a lot about their character and how they wish to work with people around them. And that's pretty selfish in my opinion. But I think that when we look at communication, snippets are important, and small 15, 20 second intervals of communication can actually prevent a lot of problems. And when we look at communication as a teaching mechanism, if the person is willing to learn, teaching becomes way easier. And if someone says that they love you, or they care about you, or they're there for you, and you're able to really remain in a state that's appropriate for communication, then it should go a lot better. I guess in short, for me personally, this has affected a lot of people in my life. We somehow just want to get mad at everybody when they don't do something or they say something, or they do something, they don't do something, they do something, they say something, whatever. And we haven't communicated with them previously that we don't enjoy that thing. And it starts with us. It starts with the people who want things to be better, who want to avoid certain situations. And if we don't take that initiative and we continue to play the blame game, it's never going to get solved. I think that is a huge point in general for relationships and friendships with anyone, is start with yourself and do what you can to make the situation better. And what happens after that is likely out of your hands. I guess that's all I had to say today. If you liked this video, let me know. And if you have any questions, talking points, suggestions, I am really happy to hear them. And I can also, if you are deaf or hard of hearing, I can put a transcript below of this video. Okay, thank you. That was the weirdest sign off. I really need to get better at this.